This week is Banned Books Week, and what I'm going to be doing is reading a couple of chapters from various banned books on the list. And I'm going to start out with Stephen King, and in particular I'm going to be reading from The Shining. Chapter 35, The Lobby. He had told them everything except what had happened to him when the snow had blocked the end of the concrete ring. He couldn't bring himself to repeat that. He didn't know the right words to express the creeping, multitudinous sense of terror he had felt when he heard the dead aspen leaves begin to crackle furtively down there in the cold darkness. But he told them about the soft sound of snow falling in clumps, about the lion with its head and its bunched shoulders working its way up and out of the snow to chase him. He even told them about how the rabbit had turned its head to watch near the end. The three of them were in the lobby. Jack had built a roaring blaze in the fireplace. Jenny was bundled up in a blanket on the small sofa where once, a million years ago, three nuns had sat laughing like girls while they waited for the line at the desk to thin out. He was sipping hot noodle soup from a mug. Wendy sat beside him, stroking his hair. Jack had sat on the floor, his face seeming to grow more and more still, more and more set as Danny told his story. Twice he pulled his handkerchief out of his back pocket and rubbed his sore-looking lips with it. Then they chased me, he finished. Jack got up and went over to the window, his back to them. He looked at his mommy. They chased me all the way up to the porch. He was struggling to keep his voice calm, because if he stayed calm, maybe they would believe him. Mr. Strenger hadn't stayed calm. He had started to cry and hadn't been able to stop. So the men in the white coats had come to take him away because if you couldn't stop crying, it meant you had lost your marbles. And when would you be back? No one knows. His parka and snow pants and the clotted snowshoes lay on the rug just inside the big double doors. I won't cry, I won't let myself cry. And he thought he could do that, but he couldn't stop shaking. He looked into the fire and waited for Daddy to say something. High yellow flames danced on the dark stone hearth. A pine knot exploded with a bang, and sparks rushed up from the flue. Danny, come over here, Jack turned around. His face still had that pinched, deathly look. Danny didn't like to look at it. Jack, I just want the boy over here for a minute. Danny slipped off the sofa and came over beside his daddy. Good boy. Now what do you see? Danny had known what he would see even before he got to the window. Over the clutter of boot tracks, sled tracks, and snowshoe tracks that marked their usual exercise area. The snowfield that covered the overlooked lawn sloped down to the topiary and the playground beyond. It was marred by two sets of tracks, one of them in a straight line from the porch to the playground, the other a long, loping line coming back. Only my tracks, Daddy, but what about the hedges, Danny? Danny's lips began to tremble. He was going to cry. What if he couldn't stop? I won't cry, won't. All covered with snow, he whispered. But Daddy, what? I couldn't hear you. Jack, you're cross-examining him. Can't you see he's upset? Shut up. Well, Danny? They scratched me, Daddy. My leg. You must have cut your leg on the crust of the snow. Then Wendy was between them, her face pale and angry. What are you trying to make him do, she asked. Confess to murder. What's wrong with you? The strangeness in his eyes seemed to break then. I'm trying to help him find the difference between something real and something that was only an hallucination, that's all. He squatted by Danny so they were on an eye-to-eye level, and then hugged him tight. Danny, it didn't really happen, okay? But it was like one of those trances you have sometimes, that's all. Daddy? What, Dan? I didn't cut my leg on the crust. There isn't any crust. It's all powdery snow. It won't even stick together to make snowballs. Remember, we tried to have a snowball fight and couldn't? He felt his father stiffen against him. The porch step then. Danny pulled away. Suddenly he had it. It had flashed into his mind all at once. The way things sometimes did, the way it had when the woman wanting to be in that gray man's pants. He stared at his father with widening eyes. You know I'm telling the truth, he whispered, shocked. Danny, Jack's face tightening. You know because you saw. The sound of Jack's open palm striking Danny's face was flat, not dramatic at all. The boy's head rocked back, the palm print reddening on his cheek like a brand. Wendy made a moaning noise. For a moment they were still, the three of them. And then Jack grabbed his son and said, "Danny, I'm sorry. You okay, Doc? You hit him. Wendy cried. "You dirty..." She grabbed his other arm, and for a moment Danny was pulled between them. "Oh, please stop pulling me," he screamed at them, and there was such agony in his voice that they both let go of him, and then the tears had to come, and he collapsed, weeping, between the sofa and the window, his parents staring at him helplessly, the way children might stare at a toy broken in a furious tussle over to whom it belonged. In the fireplace, another pine knot exploded like a hand grenade, making them all jump. And that was from Stephen King. The collection that the Cranston Public Library has in this complete 3-novel series includes Carrie, Salem Plot, and The Shining. I'm pretty sure all of these were banned at some point. Stay tuned for more banned books.